My soul was cold and hopeless, dead in the grave. Then like a river of life in a dry land, like a flicker of sight to a blind man, I saw the glorious light as it broke in. God of mercy and might, oh, you brought me back to life. You're the Lord of light, shining in the dark. You're the source of life, beating in my heart. You're the living hope, you're the risen Christ. You restored my soul, oh, you brought me back to life. The brilliance of your glory awakens my soul. You give me grace and mercy, I give you control. And like a river of life in a dry land, like a flicker of sight to a blind man, I saw the glorious light as it broke in. God of mercy and might, oh, you brought me back to life. You're the Lord of light, shining in the dark. You're the source of life, beating in my heart. You're the living hope, you're the risen Christ. You restored my soul, oh, you brought me back to life. You brought me back to life. You are the resurrector, you conquered the grave. You pulled me from the water, free from my chains, and risen to live. Like a river of life in a dry land, like a flicker of sight to a blind man, I saw the glorious light as it broke in. God of mercy and might, oh, you brought me back to life. You're the Lord of light, shining in the dark. You're the source of life, beating in my heart. You're the living hope, you're the risen Christ. You restored my soul, oh, you brought me back to life. You brought me back to life. Oh, you brought me back to life. You brought me back to life.
No, three. Welcome, everybody. This is City on a Hill Community Church. We're so glad you guys made it out this morning. If you guys are in the back, come on to the front. If you guys are sitting, let's stand and let's get ready to sing together this morning. And nothing can separate, even if I ran away. Your love never fails. I know I still make mistakes, but you have new mercies for me every day. Your love never fails. And you stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me.
Oh, your love never fails. Your love never fails. The wind is strong and the water's deep, but
I'm not alone here in these open seas. Your love never fails. The chasm is far too wide. I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails.
no, sing you stay.
And you stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me.
Oh, your love never fails. No, no, no. Your love never fails, fails. Sing it with me, make all things right. You make all things work together for my good. And you make all things work together for my good. Sing it out.
And you make all things work together for my good. And you make all things work together for my good. And you stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me.
Oh, your love never fails. No, no, no. Your love never fails, fails. Just remember the morning that He is good. All we need to do is ask. He will be there with us. Sing this song with me this morning. And I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell
to see you. Welcome to church today. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Raise your hand if you're rooting for the Chiefs. Okay. All right, raise your hand if you're rooting for the 49ers. Raise your hand if you don't care. Okay, wow. Makes sense. So, one thing that I find difficult when I preach is to not have a sports analogy in every sermon that I write. I can think of a sports analogy for every single sermon. But I realize, as you just saw, many of you are like, oh no, I could care less about sports. I could care less about any of those things. So I understand that. But one thing, this is what I find so interesting and so great about sports, is that it teaches a lot of life lessons. There's a lot of lessons in sports, a lot. And especially for kids to play sports, and even if they're not athletic, or be involved in some sort of activity. My daughter does ballet. And it's still a way for children to learn about the importance of team, to learn about the importance of other people, to learn sportsmanship. One of the coolest things, I think, when it comes to when the Ravens do well, because I'm a Ravens fan, and this is kind of Ravens area. When the Ravens do well, there's a different vibe in the city and in this area. Like up until the game that we shall not speak about, right, Anthony? A few weeks ago, there was this excitement, this some sort of feeling in the city and in so many people where it's like, wow, we're in this together, right? Almost like family. And I know that not everybody's Ravens fans. I'm just using this as an example. When a few years ago, I went down to Atlanta to a Ravens game in Atlanta. And anytime that you saw another Ravens fan, there was an immediate connection. And you didn't even know them, right? I have no clue if they live down there, if they're from, well, I don't know, but they had a Ravens jersey on. I had a Ravens jersey on. We high-five each other. It's like we're long-lost cousins or something like that, finding one another. It was great. And I say all that to tell you that when we talk about family here at City on a Hill and family here at church, and we call ourselves a family, it's kind of in that sense. I know that not everybody is related by blood. There's a lot of Westlows, I realize that, but not everybody is actual family. But when we say that we're family, what it means is we're all united by one common thing, and that's Jesus Christ. One common denominator across every person here, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, is that Jesus loves you and that God created you. And because of that, you and I are brothers and sisters. Because of that, when you see each other out at the grocery store, hopefully you don't ignore one another and say, I hope they don't see me. But instead, what I hope you do is you go up and say, hey, it's so good to see you. You're my brother, you're my sister. We're friends, we're family. We're united as one. And the cool part about being a Christian is you can go anywhere in the world, and if you find another person who believes in Jesus, you are family. That's what it means. So I hope that you feel welcomed here. If you don't, talk to me, and I will make sure that I take care of that. But I hope that you feel welcomed because you're family. I'm going to invite the ushers forward as we receive our morning tithes and offering. And we are so appreciative of how you give. You are a giving church. Thank you. Don't feel obligated to give. And we haven't said this in a while, you can give online as well through our website. So if you are like, oh no, I don't have anything here and I want to give, you can go to our website and you can give there. Thank you for your generosity. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for family, for my brothers and sisters here, for friends, for community, for a place that we can come and be united together as one. God, we love each other. We love you too. And it is because of your love that we then can love each other. So I pray that we never forget what you've done, that we never lose sight of who you are, but instead we remain in you. You adopted us as one of your own, your children. We thank you for that. Be with us this morning as we talk about you, as we learn about you, as we encounter you, Lord God. Help us to get rid of our own thoughts, our own ideas, our own biases, and I pray that we get all that out of the way and look for what you are trying to communicate. God, I pray that I don't speak my words, but instead, I speak your words. We love you with all that we are and all that we have. And everybody said, amen. As we receive offering this morning, you may take a seat. Well, good morning again. It's always good to see you. I'm excited to be able to preach again. It's been a long time since I've preached, so it might be a little rusty. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But before we get into that, I just want to point out a couple things to you that are coming up. I know that we don't have bulletins anymore. We're trying something new, and if that drives you crazy, I'm sorry about that. Stick with us. We're going to make sure that we get information to you at all times. But if you're new and you haven't spent a lot of time with myself or Pastor Nicole or Anthony or Josh, our staff, we want to invite you next week to come and get some pizza with us at an event called Pizza with the Pastors at 6 p.m. next Sunday. And we're going to send out an email about that this week, and I'll be contacting some people. But if you're like, hey, I have not spent a lot of time with the staff here and you would like to, whether you've been here for a long time or not, you're invited. Just let me know if you are interested. That'll be next Sunday. And then in 2 weeks, we have something that is very important. It is our annual celebration. We do this once a year. And in the past couple years, we've done it later on a Sunday. This year, we're going to do it directly after service and have lunch. So what this is basically a year in review of City on a Hill. What's happened in this past year and what's going to happen coming up this year and the years to come. We're going to talk about some cool things that are coming up that we actually haven't announced yet. But I don't want to build up too much, but I have a really cool announcement that we're going to announce then, so you got to come then to hear it. But it's some exciting things that are happening here at City on a Hill, so you can hear about us, learn about us, and where we're going, what we're doing, all of those sort of things. And you can ask also, it's a free time for you to ask any questions that you may have, and I'll do my best to answer them. So that'll be in 2 weeks from today, the 16th, directly after service. So hang out with us, eat some food, and learn about City on a Hill. Sound good? Cool. Last thing, there are giving statements in the back. So if you gave anything at all this past year to City on a Hill, stop by the welcome table, and there will be an envelope with your name on it for tax purposes. So make sure that you pick that up. We're going to mail them out probably in a couple weeks, whatever is not picked up. So, but I just want to make sure that you get that. So, all right, we're starting a brand new series today called Bridges. And this month, February, there is Valentine's Day in a couple weeks. So I don't want you to think, oh, great, this is all about romantic relationships or dating or marriage. Maybe you want that, and we'll talk about that at times. But really what we're talking about this month is just any relationship. People. We're talking about connection. We're talking about you and I becoming friends, becoming family, and you with everybody else around you. How do we maintain healthy and positive relationships. Because we know this, relationships are difficult. They're hard, really, really tough. If you didn't already know this, people can kind of suck, right? That's the truth. People can kind of be terrible. And also, you can kind of suck. And I can kind of suck. And we can kind of make some bad decisions and some bad choices, and we can kind of be mean to one another. And all of that goes into it, and it makes things difficult when you are around other people. Because people can be so terrible at times, and because people can be so great at times, relationships can be a struggle. And you know this. Nobody in this room has had positive relationships every step of the way and have never gotten into an argument or a disagreement or a fight with anybody else. We've all had difficult times and difficult relationships and some trying times. So I asked my wife, Lauren, who's at home. Hopefully she's watching, but I love you. But I asked my wife how I've sucked in the past. Like, give me an example of a time where I've not been the greatest husband, or times where I frustrate you, or times where I can be difficult. And she was definitely trying to be nice. Like, I was like, no, give me something good. Like, God. And it's very surface level. But what she said was, well, because if you know Lauren, she's the nicest person, so she didn't want to be mean or anything like that. But she was like, well, I mean, it's kind of annoying when I tell you something and I say, hey, can you pick this up at the store? And actually, after she said this was Thursday, I did this very thing Friday, not on purpose, but like she'll say, hey, can you get granola bars at the store? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And then she'll say, do you want me to text you to remind you? And I'll say, nah, I got it. I'm good. And of course, I don't remember. And I come home, and she just said to me, and I came home and I did that, and she was like, I'm going to kill you. Because it happens all the time, where she'll say something, and she'll know that I'll probably forget, and she'll even offer to remind me, and I turn down the reminder, and I forget anyways, all in all. I don't know why I turn down the reminder. It's not like, but anyways, I do that, and it makes her really, really angry at me. It makes her frustrated. And that, as I said, is a very surface level thing, because she was definitely trying to be nice, and I've been way worse in way more ways than that, just as you have been, right? Because relationships are hard. It's difficult to be with one another, and the closer that we get to a person, the harder that relationship can get. And because they're so hard, it in turn means that there will always, at some point, be conflict. There's going to be conflict in relationship. Any relationship that you're in long enough will experience that. That's part of being a person. So if conflict is unavoidable in this world, then I know that many people want, even though it is unavoidable, I know many people want to avoid it at all costs. Maybe you're a person who is like, I hate conflict. I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to have any, even if I'm upset about something, I'm just going to avoid conflict. I'm not going to confront somebody because it makes me uncomfortable. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're a person who's like, oh, I love it. I will confront you. I will meet you right where you're at. If you make me mad, I will let you know. I will come right up and throw it in your face. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and that's just who I am. And you're just going to have to deal with it, which is a great way to go through life. You won't have any problems that way at all, right? Because we think, oh, I'm just going to handle this. But this can be, both ways are not the healthiest way to deal with things. Because if you just ignore conflict at all times, if you say, I don't want to make anybody mad, I don't want to make anybody frustrated, I don't want anyone to think that I'm difficult, if that's you, then ultimately, if you keep things in long enough, it is just going to explode. And you've been there, we've all been there, where it's like, I can only bite my tongue for so long, right? I can only keep it in for so long, and eventually you're going to take it out on somebody who deserves it or doesn't deserve it. Most likely doesn't. And you're going to just throw all of this stuff on an individual, and they're like, where did this come from? I just forgot granola bars, Lauren, okay? I don't deserve this. She's never done any of that. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Is this really about granola bars or is it about something else? Probably about something else. But if you're the person who just is constantly going over the top and confronting everybody, then nobody's going to like you. Like, nobody's going to want to be around you. And some people love to seek it out. Some people love the drama. And in some strange way, you enjoy the drama without admitting that you enjoy the drama. And this is what we do. We say, I don't know why, but drama just seems to follow me everywhere that I go. I can't get away from it. I don't know why. It's just all these people around me, everybody else is the problem. I'm not. But drama just seems to find me. What's the common denominator here? It's you. And you like it. Some people feel alive when there's something to be angry about, right? When there's something to be passionate about. When there's something where it's like, oh, this person, I'm so mad at what they did. Can you believe this? And you want to tell everybody, and you're in this constant fight, and you hold this grudge, and you just love the drama. It makes you feel alive in some weird, twisted way. But that's some people. Other people are not that way. No matter where you are, I discovered that from being a pastor, and not even just from being a pastor, a lot of people are in conflict. And as a pastor, I spend a lot of my time working on conflict resolution with people and with myself. Because if conflict is unavoidable, then we need to figure out how to resolve conflict in a healthy way so that we can build a bridge to one another and have a healthy relationship. But not everybody knows how to do this. Not everybody is aware that there is a way to resolve conflict in a way that is beneficial for both you and the other person. In any sort of conflict, there doesn't have to be a winner and a loser. Oftentimes, there's a loser and a loser when there's conflict. And rarely, but it's possible, they can both be winners. It's not about defeating another person. It's about resolving the conflict and repairing the relationship. That's what it's about. Building a bridge to the other person so that we can continue this relationship. Or do we just want to tear the bridge down and say, nope, this is cut off. We'll burn all the bridges that we got and say, no longer am I going to have a relationship with you. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to go down that road. But it's very common for me to sit with two people and listen to both people talk about all of the problems that the other person creates and none of the problems that each person creates. It's very common for this to happen. And you've done this, right? Where there's conflict, you're in an argument with somebody, and they'll say, well, you did this, this, and this. And then you'll say, oh, yeah, well, I only did that because you did this, this, and this. And I'm excused for those behaviors because your behavior caused my behavior, which then caused your behavior, and then my behavior, and so forth, so forth, so forth. And nobody takes ownership of where you've fallen short. And nobody takes ownership of how you've been a jerk. But instead, we put the blame on everybody else, and I'm entitled to be a jerk because of how you have treated me. And we know that this isn't any way to have a healthy relationship, and it isn't any way to go about our lives. It's not beneficial for us because it's so easy to point out the things that other people do wrong, and we know this, it's so much harder to look at ourselves. So if conflict is inevitable, then we need to figure out how to handle it in a way that helps the relationship, that builds the relationship, not tears the relationship down. So I don't know where you're at today, whether you're married, whether you're dating, whether you're single, whether you have a close friend, or whatever, wherever you are in your life, whether you're in conflict or not right now, I hope that this is something that you'll take with you. I hope that this is something that you'll use and that will help you to slow down and think about what you're actually doing when you're angry and when you're frustrated. So all month long, we're going to talk about how we can build bridges to each other to have the best possible relationship that we can have that is glorifying to God and that is helpful to you. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. So the brother of Jesus, his name is James, He wrote a letter to the 12 tribes of Israel that are now scattered among the nations. And basically, in other words, he was writing to Jewish Christians. So this is after Jesus has walked the earth. He's been crucified, he's been resurrected, and now he's ascended back into heaven. And now the church is starting to grow a little bit. The church is starting to move all over the place. And there are two sets of Christians, okay? There were the Jewish Christians, which were the ones who have been around for a while. They have the history, the Israelites. And then there are the Gentile Christians. The Gentile Christians are the ones who are not Jewish, who didn't come from a Jewish background. Because for a while, it was basically only Jewish people who experienced this sort of way of living, this sort of Christian life. But now, all people are invited. And so the Gentiles are there. But James, he's writing specifically to the Jewish Christians here, to the 12 tribes that are scattered out. So this letter, it's very practical that he wrote, and it's also very blunt. I mean, James is kind of in your face. If you've never read the book of James, I would encourage you to read it. It's only 5 chapters. It's not very long. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible because it gets straight to the point, and it's like a punch in the gut. That's kind of what it is. When you read it, sometimes it's like, oh gosh, yeah, he's right. He's very blunt about it, but he's also right. So he doesn't hold back any punches. So I want to look at James chapter 4, verses 1 through 12. And he's talking about relationships here. And he gets right to the point about how to have a healthy relationship with another person. So James chapter 4, starting at verse 1, we're going to read all the way through verse 12. It'll be on the screen. It says this: "What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You want something but don't get it. You kill and covet, but you cannot have what you want. You quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures." Verse 4, "You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world is hatred toward God? Anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. Or do you think Scripture says without reason that the Spirit He caused to live in us envies intensely? But He gives us more grace. That is why Scripture says God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and He will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up. Brothers, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against his brother or judges him speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you are not keeping it, but sitting in judgment on it. There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. But you, who are you to judge your neighbor?" So right away, James asks and answers the question that we're talking about today. What causes fights and quarrels among you? What causes conflict? Where does this come from? Why do we fight? And he is very blunt with his answer. You are the reason that there's conflict. You and I are the reason. Because it says right there, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? Now, you may hear this and already get defensive. Well, you don't know what this person did. You don't know the abuse that I've taken. You don't know the amount of times that this person has gone down this road and done this to me. You don't know what I've experienced. In other words, I am justified in what I did because what this person did was worse. That's what we're saying. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there that just as I'm talking about this, there are many people who have dealt with abuse, whether it be physical, verbal, emotional abuse. And what I'm about to talk about here is by no means saying that you were abused because of you. I don't want anybody to hear me say that, because that's not true. If you've experienced abuse in your life, if you've experienced any form of abuse, you did not deserve it. and you are worth more than that. So with that out of the way, you're the reason that there's conflict. And on a smaller sense, right? You and I are the one. Where does it come from? It comes from us. It comes from you and me. Ultimately, there's conflict because we have a battle going on inside of each of us. And that battle is, how do I get what I want? How do I feel better? How do I get everything that I desire? It's all about me, and it's all about you. How do I make my life more comfortable? We all have our own insecurities, we all have our own baggage, and we all have our own personal struggles. All of us have those things. And when we enter into a relationship with another person, you don't leave that stuff behind. We bring it with us. All of your baggage, all of your terrible stuff about you that you don't want to tell anybody else about, all of your embarrassing things, your weird quirks and habits, all of that stuff comes with you. Now, we can put on a face for a while. We can wear a mask for a little while because we always try to put our best foot forward, right? You go out on a first date with somebody or you meet a bunch of new people at a party or whatever it is. You don't just come and say, hey, here's all my baggage. Just look at this. This is how weird I am. We don't do that. No, we lie. And we try to put on this face that I'm great. And I've got it all together, and I know what I'm doing, and you want to be my friend, or you want to be in a relationship with me, whatever it is. That's what we do, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But the longer that you're in a relationship with somebody, the more chance there is that that baggage that you're trying to hide is going to come out. Those insecurities that you don't want anybody else to know are going to be revealed. Because the deeper you go in relationship, the more vulnerable that we are. And the more possibility there is then for conflict. Because we don't like to appear vulnerable. We don't like people to see us at our worst. We don't like people to know all of those weird things about us that we don't want anybody to know. But you enter into a relationship, all of that comes with you. It doesn't go away. It comes with you. So what we have is two messed up people in a messed up relationship with one another. And that's a recipe for conflict, fights, and quarrels. That's what it is. So if you're experiencing conflict with somebody, I want to encourage you. Stop pointing the finger. Doesn't matter how the conflict started. Doesn't matter who did what. If you are in conflict, the first thing I want you to do is to look at you. The first thing that James is telling us, the reason why there's fights and quarrels among you is because you are dealing with stuff. It's because there's a battle going on within you. And we need to handle that first before we can go anywhere else. If we constantly think that everybody else is the problem, everybody else is the reason that things go wrong, and I've got it all figured out, how arrogant are you? I can promise you, if that's your attitude, you are the problem. You are the problem. Any relationship that is totally one-sided, where one person constantly is just bossing another person around and thinks that they know better than everybody else, is a relationship that is destined to fail. Destined to fail. And it's difficult to deal with. But we have to get to the place where we realize, I've played a part in this. I've played a part in this conflict. And it is always a bigger part than we are willing to admit. What we actually admit is where I fell short. It's almost always bigger than that. We have to realize. And what James is really saying here is this. There is conflict among people because people are placing expectations on one another that are not deserving to be placed on another individual. We have these expectations. And we say, here, I need you to be this for me. And it's not fair. And why do we have those expectations? Because inside we have our thoughts. And these expectations of making me feel loved ultimately need to be placed on God. Unfair expectations on one another is so difficult to carry. And it's a burden. So if you have whoever the closest person to you in your life is, whether that's a spouse, a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a best friend or a kid or a parent, whoever, I don't know who it is, a coworker, whoever the closest person in your life is, I want you to think about that person. That person cannot make you totally happy. They can't. Because they're not designed for that. They're not supposed to. That person is not supposed to carry you through this world. And if your source of feeling loved and happy and joy comes from an individual, then you will be let down. And then when you are let down by that person, we don't know how to handle it because my world was put into that person. Everything that I am was put into that person. And now that person's gone. Where do I go? How do I live? What do I do? It's like if you've been in a long relationship, a dating relationship, marriage, whatever it is, and then it ends for some reason. Like, I don't know how to go about my life anymore. I don't know what to do. You see this a lot with teenagers, right? When they get into their first relationship. And it's so special, and it is, and it's wonderful. But the danger is that a lot of teenagers will do is that they will put everything that they got into this boyfriend or this girlfriend, and then all of their friends and their family that have been there for them their entire lives, they just kind of ignore. And we push them to the side. And we forget about them because I'm so focused on this person who I'm attracted to, who makes me feel good about myself. And then a few months down the road, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, I don't know. And it's also possible that they could be soulmates and then that they go on to live happily ever after. Probably not. But we put everything that we've got into this person. And then a year later, if it makes it that long, the relationship ends. And being a youth pastor for so long, I saw this a lot, is that person then has nobody. Because they ignored everybody, except for this one person that they put all of their eggs in one basket. And now that person's gone, and they don't know where to go. It's like relearning how to walk. How do I do things? When we do that with people, with individuals, we are putting an unfair expectation on them. But we want people to lift us up in a way that only God can. Nobody else can. So if you expect the world to give you everything that you need, you will be extremely disappointed because James says, you don't have because you don't ask God. When you do ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives. So the reason that there is conflict and the battle that is going on within ourselves is this. We are self-centered people. That's our natural instinct, is to think about me. How does this affect me? What does this mean for me? And the conflict is there because if I'm doing that, and my wife is doing that, or my friend is doing that, or my coworker is doing that, or whoever else is doing that, then there's a fight. The interests are not the same. Conflict. This is so huge. So where do we start then in repairing the relationship and building the bridge? We have to submit to God and then just watch evil flee. I love what he says there in verse 7 through 8. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. So when it comes to any relationship, if you submit to God, if you humble yourself, you then will have a steady bridge to walk across to have a healthy relationship with another individual. I promise you. The key to any healthy relationship is humility. That's the key. Realizing that I'm not the center of the universe. And neither are you. And I don't want you to make me the center of the universe, but instead, I'm going to put my faith and my trust in God. And what God does in my life is he helps me realize, am I messed up? Yeah, but guess what? God also paid my price so that I have the victory, that where a messed up person can then find life and life everlasting. And because of that, my insecurities and my shortcomings do not disqualify me to love you, nor you to love me. Humility. It's huge. It is everything in any relationship. If you're in conflict, pursue humility. I love how James says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So we don't always live like that's true. Temptation comes our way. Feelings come our way. You're in the middle of an argument with somebody and you just want to explode and you want to say the worst things about this person. And you know, the closer you get to a person, you know the buttons that you can press that will really make them angry. And what do? We press them. I know if I say this, it's going to tear them down. And that's what I want. I want to see it all burn, right? I want to see destruction. And that's what we do. We press the button. That temptation is always there. But the more that you resist, the more the temptation goes away. It's not a guarantee. In other words, your relationship is not a death sentence. Just because it gets hard doesn't mean that you have to give in to what's hard about it. Doesn't mean that you have to throw it all away because, well, we had a good run, but it's too hard now. That's really the state of marriage in America today. Well, this got hard. I don't want to keep going down this road. I loved you at one point, but I don't love you anymore because it's hard. And we had kids, and now you're annoying me. And now I'm going to go and leave you. That's what we do. The more we resist, the more the devil will flee. The more opportunity we will have to experience a healthy, positive you and relationship. It's kind of like when you have a mosquito bite, right? I get mosquito bites all the time. I don't know if you do or not, but they drive me crazy. And when you have a mosquito bite and you see it and you're like, oh gosh, I need to scratch this mosquito bite. So you scratch it. Then what happens? Does it help? No. It makes it worse. It makes it itch more. It makes it bleed, makes it ooze, and sometimes spread, right? It makes it bad. Is that gross? Sorry. It's the truth. And us scratching a mosquito bite, we think in the moment, oh, it feels good, right? When you get a good scratch on a mosquito bite, it's like, oh, yes, this feels so good, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's not going away. This isn't solving my problem. This isn't making it better. It's making it way worse. It's making it way more difficult. Instead, what we have to do is, in all of our willpower, try not to touch it. If we don't mess with a mosquito bite, it will go away way quicker than if we do. But the more that we mess with it, the longer it goes and the worse it is. It's the way it is in our relationships. You know, there's this one point that I can call on that will it'll feel so good in the moment to say this. It will make me feel way better right now. But it's going to make your relationship way worse. You ever say something in the moment, and as the words leave your mouth, you're like, no! Right? Yeah. But they're gone. And you can't get it back. And the damage is done. And sometimes in the middle of a fight, we can do the worst thing, and it's like, yeah, that felt good. And then the next day, you're like, this doesn't feel as good as it did yesterday. This is actually way worse. Way worse. But in this passage, James is telling us that if we really want to get serious about repairing relationships, then we first need to get serious about our relationship with Jesus. Otherwise, we will all be pursuing selfish desires that don't help build bridges, but instead tears them down. So the last thing, that this is key to any relationship. First is humility. Second thing is this. Stop talking about one another. Stop. Stop slandering one another. In verse 11, it says, brothers, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against his brother or judges him speaks against the law and judges it. This is something that I think is the easiest thing for us to do. It's so easy to talk garbage about another person behind their back. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to slander another person. And it feels good. But it is so destructive. I want to challenge you. Stop talking about people. Stop. When you're in a situation where you feel the urge and the desire to bring up how this other person did this, and can you believe this, and how terrible is that? When you're in that situation and you feel that urge coming on, I'm challenging you. Just stop. Keep it in. Don't do it. You don't have to give in. We think we have to give in. I got to get this out. You don't have to give in. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. We can keep it in. It's possible to do. Or if you are around another person who is talking about other people, do not engage. And that person can get mad at you. That's fine. Who cares? They're not very nice anyways. They're talking about everybody else. You know what that means? They're probably talking about you. If you're a person who goes around gossiping about everybody else, just know that everybody realizes that you do that. You're not hiding it. It's no secret. And what that then makes people do, because I know people like this, where I'm like, if I tell this person, then everybody will know. I know people like that. So what do? I don't tell them anything. I don't give them any ammunition. I can't trust them. So if you're a person that goes around gossiping about everybody else, just know that other people know that about you. We know it. But if you are around a person who is engaging in that sort of conversation, constantly talking bad about somebody else, can you stop them from talking about it? No. But you can shut it down by not responding, by saying, I'm not going to talk about that. Or what you can really do is, when they talk bad about somebody, talk about them in a positive way. Talk about something good that they do. Lift them up, encourage instead of tear down. We can not continue to slander one another. Stop gossiping. It's not healthy. It has never helped a relationship to gossip. Never. So if you care about the relationship that you're in, then you won't gossip about it, because if you gossip about it, it can only do damage. It can't build it up. Gossiping about somebody means that we don't care about somebody, which many of us don't want to say. So I don't know where you're at. I don't know if you're in conflict or if you're not in conflict, but I want to encourage you to build bridges. I'm going to invite the worship team up. And I want you to think about your closest relationships. Your best friend, your parent, whoever. We've been through the list. Think about if there is conflict right now. And if there isn't, great. But I want you to prepare yourself for when there is. Because it will come. It will. It's part of life. I want you to center yourself with Jesus Christ first. Once you do that, humility is possible, which then means healthy relationships are possible. But it all starts with Jesus. Submit yourselves to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee. He will. If there is a relationship that you're in conflict in right now, whether the person's in the room right now, whether they're somewhere else, after the service is over, I want you to contact that person. And I want you to apologize. And I want you to pursue the relationship, not yourself. Stop pointing the finger and realize the part that we play and trust Jesus to come through. It's so much easier said than done. I realize that. But it's possible. Amen? Let's stand and let's sing.
Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain, that I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God.
To set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain, that I can't control. I want more of you, God.
I want more of you, God. There's no place I would rather be.
There's no place I would rather be. There's no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love.
There's no place I'd rather be.
There's no place I would rather be. There's no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love.
Set a fire down in my soul
That I can't contain, that I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain, that I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God.
We want more of you. There's no place I'd rather be.
There's no place I would rather be. There's no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love. No place I would rather be. There's no place I would rather be. There's no place I would rather be than here in your love, here in your love.
God, your love is life-changing, all-encompassing. God, your love came into this world and influenced people to love one another. We're so thankful that your example of love is there for us to follow so that we can treat each other the same way that you first treated us. Your love that is filled with humility, mercy, kindness, grace. That love, Lord God, we can show to one another. We don't have to give in to the temptations of this world. We don't have to give in to the devil or to evil, Lord God, but instead we can resist. And the more that we resist, the more that evil flees. The more of an opportunity we have to pursue good, to pursue positive things, to lift one another up so that we don't have to keep living a life of destruction and hurt and pain. But instead, you are at the center, Lord God. God, help the person in this room right now, the people in this room right now who are in the middle of deep conflict, who are hurting, who are struggling. I pray that you comfort them, help them to know that they're not alone, and give them the power and the courage to go and resolve the conflict and repair the relationship, because it's worth it. People are worth it, Lord. You showed us that. Thank you for all that you've done in our lives. Help us to take this with us every day so that we can pursue you. You are so good. We love you, God, and we pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. Everybody said, amen. As you go today, give somebody a high five. I forgot to mention, if you are a teenager, find Pastor Josh in the back. There is a trampoline event coming up in a few weeks. Check in with him and go have fun at a trampoline park. We'll see you back next week.